Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm joined by my co-host Rusty Fender. Rusty, welcome.
Good to see you, David, on another rainy day. Imagine that.
Another rainy day. Well, we of course play this back throughout the week, but that could fit any day.
Yes, it could.
Hopefully, it will not fit during the Pittston Tomato Festival.
They've been lucky.
Our subject for the day and returning is our guest, Mike Lombardo, who has been gracious enough to join us every year to talk about what is, when I think of Scranton, I think of the St. Patrick's Parade, and I think of La Festa. When you think of Pittston, the first thing that comes to mind now is the Tomato Festival. And you'd think it was here forever. That's not quite true, although
36 years we figured out, Mike.
It's getting close to forever.
It didn't start that big, did it?
No, it started a little bit smaller, but sometimes that small start is the hard start, and I always acknowledge the original founders of that, people like Mayor Tom Walsh, who preceded me in office, and Will Toole, and Jimmy Kummensberger, who was a sitting councilman, and Maria Caparella, who was a councilwoman as well, and people like Bob Conroy, and obviously Val D'Elia. Those are some of the driving forces behind it. So, those, what I would call early pioneers that got this thing off the ground really are the people that set the foundation for this event. And, I'd like to think that back in 1998, when the committee that I'm involved in with Laura Nacito and Jim Zara and quite a few other significant people sort of took the baton on it, I would like to think that, we sort of ran with it in a direction that was where it was headed next. And as Rusty pointed out earlier when we were chatting, part of that where it was headed next was a move from the lower lot, which was next to the boulevard and is now where Burger King is, up to the Main Street location. And we did that for a strategic reason.
How so strategically?
Well, in my tenure, in my first year in office in 1998, our focus was really the revitalization of downtown. And, we thought we had this signature event. Why not use it as sort of a magnet to get people there? And every year subsequent to that, including till this week, we've always used the festival as, I think, kind of the mousetrap to get people in to see what's going on downtown and what progress that we've made.
And you had a break with the buildings being down in that area too, so that's another right place at the right time deal too, where it is now.
Sure. There were buildings down there. That lot is located centrally in town. There was a vacant gas station in the upper lot, which we were able to acquire early on. And the other part that it did was it allowed us to do, I think, a very tax beneficial deal down on the former lot, in that we were able to bring CVS in, and then at a time when Burger King was changing their footprint so significantly that they were going to vacate their space and possibly leave the city. And I think, for us, it's not only about new businesses, but it's about holding in regard businesses that have stayed there. And, whether you're a Burger King fan or not, it's got its place in the market, and it does very well, and it's a mainstay in our downtown. So that was an important deal for us to preserve.
And they let the folks park in their lot, too, for Tomato Fest.
Absolutely. I have to say, all of our downtown merchants are gracious, and building owners about the festival. Everyone always asks about the parking, and I never like to think about it much. I will frame it this way. Monsignor Bendick always talks about these mysteries that occur that allow things to happen. This is quite possibly one of them.
Now, first of all, the dates for this year's festival.
So it's this Thursday, the 16th, through Sunday. 4 days of lots of fun, great food, obviously, entertainment, some various other events that we've sort of layered in over it, tomato fights. Well, hopefully no rain, but you know what? We roll with it.
They still come out.
Yeah, they still come out, and we're always concerned because we want our vendors to do well, and I think one of the reasons the festival has made it through all these years is because it's been consistent. So when our festival vendors do well, we do well.
And anybody that watches this show knows I love to promote multi-day events, because if you have a one-day event, as big as it is, people can't always make it on that day. They've got other commitments. When you have a festival, to me, the festival is the closest thing, in a sense, to the Bloomsburg Fair, which runs just over a week. Now, of course, the fair is far bigger, and they have their own fairgrounds and everything else. But you gather thousands and thousands of people. If you just had it on one day, I don't think you would. You might have one big crowd one day, but you'd lose others, probably thousands of others that can't come.
I agree with you, and thanks for that comparison. the Bloomsburg Fair is just such an awesome event. I mean, that's like a garage band being compared to the Beatles. So
yeah, you're right.
thank you for that.
But you do it in a
that
limited
plug.
space, too.
We do it in a limited space, and I think it's a space that works downtown. And I agree with you on the 4 days. It's really nice. One of my favorite parts of, aside from eating, of the festival is that it's become an annual tradition that people have used it as sort of this marking place on their calendar that they schedule family reunions around, they schedule class reunions around, because it becomes an event that they could work into both of those things. It's just a great meeting place, and for me, that's my favorite thing, is really to see people that I haven't seen sometimes in a long time, and sometimes just not as much as I'd like to. So, and I know everybody else feels that way. So the 4-day event really allows us, and the other thing that it allows us to do is sort of make up if the weather sort of slaps us a little bit in a way that we're not happy about, we can bounce back on the next day.
And it's a good placement for the timing, too. A couple weeks before Labor Day with La Festa, you want to give a little breathing room between the big events in this area, because you can't make a non-stop event for the family in all these towns. So this is just placed right.
Yeah, I think it is. I have to tell you one funny thing that, in my first 2 terms in office way back when, the only bad thing about the festival was that it meant that the budget was coming up next. In the early years, that was a little bit of struggle, but I have to say that, in the last 10 years or so, the city has really gotten its act in order, and a lot of that credit goes to Jay Klush, who was the mayor before me for 8 years, and so I'm actually happily waiting for the festival to start, and I'm not as worried about the budget for the first time in my mayoral experience.
I wanted to get into all the things and all the various days, but there's something that you said that prompted a question, because you talked about, and Russ, you mentioned the parking and how the merchants cooperate with the parking. And one always has to wonder if a big event, a special event like this, special food vendors coming in, music and entertainment, I can see where that might hurt local merchants, in that the people come to the events surrounding the festival, but not necessarily to the merchants. Have you found that that's the case? Do the merchants benefit from this in the long run?
I think it's a combination of both, depending on what it is that you're doing. Sometimes it's a little challenging for our service industry businesses, like a hair salon on a Saturday when we shut Main Street down. But you know what? I have to say that I always talk about progress and partnership, and I believe that we've got a really good partnership with our businesses, and they sometimes will also use that calendar time as a time to take a little bit of a break and step away. So I think the businesses that are affected that way, in sort of a, I hate to say negative, work with it and they roll with it. But I also think it's an opportunity for a business to have new people take a look at it. Maybe they don't get in there because of everything else going on, but they see a sign downtown of a new business and say, hey, I'd like to get back to, say, Fuji, which is a relatively new sushi place that's on our main street, or Ricasa, which is a new higher end restaurant, or one of our mainstays like the Gramercy or Napoli, or Sabatelli's Market. But actually Sabatelli's comes to the festival, so they have the best of both worlds.
Here's something you may not know. A longtime, lifelong friend of mine, his name is Joe Steiniger. He runs all the 40 Burger Kings in the area.
Okay.
And he runs, of course, Pittston. And usually I'm there in the afternoon where I eat, and Joe Steiniger said that the weekend of the Tomato Festival is generally one of their biggest weeks, because people will stop in after and get some sodas and things like that.
Well, that
and to use
sort of
the
answers
restroom.
the question.
How about that? Isn't that unbelievable? Because I always said, wow, here you go. You're going to take a hit this weekend. This is the sure business killer. He said, not true. He said they have more traffic, more walking, and even if you only buy a couple dollar item. Granted, you're not going to go and spend $8 for sausage and peppers at the Tomato Festival and go eat at Burger King. But in the ancillary things like sodas and coffees and hot chocolates, which maybe they do not provide at the Tomato Fest, they stop in at Burger King with the walk-through traffic. Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah, and I think, and even if you look at Saturday, which is an early day for us with the parade. And the race, our vendors aren't open yet. So if you want to grab a quick coffee or a breakfast, you go to Burger King.
That's where they go.
So it's great to hear that, because like you said, we're always concerned. Our businesses are very important to us downtown. And I think, there's a tendency sometimes to get excited over the shiny new thing and forget about what has been here. But I've always held high regard those businesses that have really weathered some tough economic storms. And if you look at how we've applied some of our grant programs and our sign programs, we've done that so that those businesses that in those tough economic times had to make hard choices are reinforced for sticking with us. There's something to be said about longevity and loyalty, and I believe in that. So,
And the state and the aesthetics of the city, Dave and I mention on every show, we'll tie it in somehow when someone comes in from another town, how great, with the template that Pittston looks like.
well, thank you.
With the cobblestone walkways and the period. We mention that more in other shows than the Pittston
And
show.
now it's expanded because the sidewalks have moved
Down, south.
And there's construction work going on there. By the way, the construction work won't cause any commotion with the festival, will it?
No, it won't actually, because we actually went through the roughest period ever. If you remember back, maybe about 7 years, we were actually doing construction right in the heart of the core
Now
downtown.
it's just a fork in the road. Now
Yeah.
it doesn't bother.
But we're pretty far along, and the weather, we would have been done, but it's little things now. The weather has thrown us off a little bit. But again, you know what? We don't sweat small things. And the really good news about the streetscape is a couple months ago, 2 months ago or so, we were informed by the Governor Wolf's administration that we were awarded another grant,
Oh,
a
geez.
significant grant.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that the governor helped us with, and we're able to now start streetscape in the junction section, which so we're going
Incredible.
to start our northmost street and start working backwards toward the core of downtown.
Oh, that's wonderful, yeah.
That's
and that will start in the
incredible.
spring.
Yeah. If you have not been to the city of Pittston in a while, do yourself a favor and just drive through. It's become famous for the murals, of course, on some of the buildings there. But now you've got the beautiful sidewalks, great street lighting that support that new set, just fit in so perfectly. And I'm got to say, it's like the newest.
gosh.
It's like the newest old city.
Stand on Main at
in
Savatel's
Pennsylvania.
and take a photo looking north. It's like a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have
Yeah.
just sent the photo and you probably would have gotten the grant back in the mail. It's true.
Well, I think that's part of how we did it. I mean, I think the governor looked at performance, and I think there's no question that the streetscape has made an impact. And actually, you gave me a perfect segue when you talked about, the arts and the murals. One of the things that we've been really working on is our second Friday, our art walks, and we've added two. We did one this past Friday, which we never did in August because we were always a little leery with the festival being so close. But we've also now married so before you ask me what's new, we've married the art walk into the Tomato Festival, and this week at the festival, we will have some of our artists and tents on Main Street like we do at the art walk as kind of a new feature, because we always try to do something new to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
You could have great songs, but you can't keep playing them over and over. So, I mean, that's our gesture to do that, and we've been gradually unveiling sculptures. On this Thursday, the day that the festival kicks off, we actually have something just as significant in my mind kicking off. At about noon, we'll be dedicating the LCC facility.
The new
downtown.
Luzerne County Community
That's
College
right.
facility.
Correct. In the bank.
We've had the
We've had
president of
him
the
on.
school on, and what another boon to the city to have that local branch campus opening up as well.
I think the biggest boon to the city, and this is what I gauge it by, Palazzo, the restaurant, exclusive restaurant, moves out. A month later, it's taken over by another high-end restaurant. That is great turnover. That's the turnover that your town wants to have.
Exactly. I mean, in government, I think we have a tendency to sometimes creep and try to overdo what our mission is. But I think if we stay clearly focused on what it is, look, the economy is going to be the economy. You're going to have some wins and you're going to have some losses.
Yeah.
But I think what happens next becomes the real question. And we've really been fortunate that we don't have a lot of vacancy on our Main Street now. As a matter of fact, we're trying to expand our core in terms of adding new place to be able to rent and actually responding to sort of the demand and some smaller size. We talked a little bit about, the true measure of a city is looking upstairs. I'm very proud to say that over the last couple of years, several developers have produced high-end residential units that have not lasted long on the market. And they have seen the same and appreciated the same sort of turnover. You get an executive from one of the companies up in Center Point, they could get transferred. So in a year, they could leave the apartment. It's really no indicator of how good or how bad the apartment is. It's
Sure.
really a circumstance. But I think what is really interesting and what really, I think, allows us to step back and think, okay, I think we're on the right track, or I know we're on the right track, is that those units never last really long. As a matter of fact, there's a list of people that say, hey, please call us if you have an opening. So I think all of the
That's a good
indicators
sign,
are
yeah.
headed in the right direction.
Yeah. Festival kicking off on Thursday. The date for that is what, the
Thursday is the 16th.
16th. How does it, give us a day-by-day breakdown of what we're going to see.
So Thursday, we start at about 4 o'clock. Things start to open up. By 5, we're ramping up. At 6, we have the opening ceremonies, which I always look forward to. It's sort of the celebration of, again, a great committee that makes the things happen. This stuff doesn't happen over 4 days. I mean, we literally talk about it all year round,
Sure.
and we take about a week off and then sort of debrief and come back. Then by Friday, we're in full action. All the vendors are up and running. We have a full line of entertainment through all 4 nights. Saturday is our long day. It starts out with a race and then the parade and tomato fights. There are some pageants and judging of tomatoes and Little Miss
The
and Little
mass
Mister.
before the race still? The mass before the race?
Yeah, I think they're doing that again this year. But the race has become a really great thing. And
Do you use the main street for that?
yes, we use the main street, and we actually have great participation from our neighboring community, West Pittston, who is a partner with us in that race. Without their help and support, and really without the help and support of the police and EMS and fire departments around us, and the county, we wouldn't be able to pull this event off. And again, it speaks volumes to the whole idea of partnership. You can't get there on your own, and it's not about it's about we and us
Yeah.
and our partners.
So after
moving
the
this
race
thing.
is then the parade?
The parade comes after the race, and we did that for a strategic reason in that at the end of the race, you're coming down Main Street, and the parade goers are there. So, for
okay,
runners,
all right.
you got a full Main Street
got
of
an
people that
audience.
are cheering
Yeah,
you on.
yeah.
And then as soon as the last runner passes Columbus Ave, we get a go-ahead from the police and EMS department, and the parade then starts up at the forks of the road, and we start moving forward. It winds all the way down, turns off at the end of the central business district, jumps onto the boulevard, and it ends usually right at the Firemen's Memorial Bridge.
Okay, which is also a Water Street?
Water Street,
Water
correct.
Street Bridge. That's Saturday then is the big long day, but you continue into Sunday as well.
We continue into Sunday with some more pageants and again good food, continued music. We end at 10 o'clock on Sunday night, and we all catch our breath a little bit. Sunday's a little quieter morning, which we really like after a long Saturday. But it's a really nice flow, and I think we've gotten a really good stride in terms of how the 4 days lay out. We always like to add some challenges, and I'll tease everybody. Next year there are going to be some new amenities that come. We will finish that second stage. We'll also have the amphitheater up on the hill that's under construction now, so we may add a movie or a video of some sort to the festivities, and we're also going to utilize the upper lot as a third space. And we've been talking for years about creating a venue that's conducive to some of the younger people in our community, and we may book some bands that are really, not everybody wants to listen to the music that the three of us want to listen
Yeah,
to.
but
Yeah,
you do. But
sure.
you do really have something for all ages
I think we do.
in terms of. One of the little you mentioned the pageants, for instance. There's the Little Miss Tomato Festival pageant,
Correct.
and that's become a big thing in and of itself. It's the kind of thing that actually could draw a crowd without a festival around it.
It is, and I think all of those things help us, layer in. And the other piece that I would add is that, there's not an admission fee to our festival.
Oh, that's right.
So,
yeah, that's key.
It's tough. I mean, you have a decent-sized family, and you try to go out and do something. It's very expensive. So we've tried to always make, the festival an affordable event where you can come in and you can listen to some music. And we've even tried to keep a handle on the prices we charge our vendors, because we know that if we escalate the prices, that's
You'll
going to
lose,
transfer
right,
into an
yeah.
escalation of cost of goods that are sold. So, we've tried to be considerate of that. And, our focus with the festival is, yes, to make a little bit of money. And we use that money to support various charities and causes. We use it to support the arts in the city. We use it for revitalization efforts. A couple years back, we gave some sidewalk grants and assisted out in their neighborhoods. The arts have been something we've supported. The Miles for Michaels program that comes through the race. We've supported Paint Pittston Pink, and there's a great sort of symbiotic relationship with us and Paint Pittston Pink. So, it's a really good opportunity, and I think at the end of 4 days, I know that our committee feels really good. One, that we've gotten through another festival, but also that we know the end result has been a great celebration of 4 days. and an opportunity for us then to support things that are important to the community.
I think that the big venue is Saturdays at the Tomato Toss
Yes.
at Cooper's Waterfront, which is probably the coup de grace of Saturday.
It really is, because I think it's a different event, and we have people that come from all over. And
I'll remind everybody, these are not fresh
That's
tomatoes.
right. They're not wasting food. That's
Tomato
right.
battle is you sign up for it, and people actually toss tomatoes at
It's like
each other.
holding ketchup in your hand. Somebody.
Similarly to what they would do where Rusty and I are doing vaudeville, we'd be
Or the hook,
targets,
or the
I'm sure,
hook.
or
Get the hook.
So these are not fresh tomatoes. These are not the great Pittston
That's right.
tomatoes that they're promoting, right?
correct. No, and the hook is what happens on Wednesday nights once a month when I try to speak at a
Get
council
the
meeting. Council gets the hook out.
Only we would know what we're talking about from
exactly.
the vaudeville days, but you're right.
So-
But the comments on that tomato, I mean, that's what people
Oh, it's
focus on. They
huge.
think tomato festival, and they
Absolutely.
picture the battle.
Cooper's Waterfront.
And it's really fun, and we support food charities with that, the proceeds from that event. We've got great sponsorship there. Cooper's has been a great partner with us on that. The Cooper family has been a great partner with us on that project. Our fire and EMS guys come out afterwards and help with the cleanup, which is a monumental task.
That should be,
Oh, no
yeah.
doubt.
that's
2 hours
true.
later, you
No
would
doubt.
never realize that there was an event that occurred in that lot, a messy event. But it's a lot of fun. And a couple years ago, there was an article in Condé Nast about the fight and the other sort of sister fight being in some other country, I think called Spain or something. That, it's trying to compete with us. But.
Well, speaking of that, now your stage, there's one stage now.
Right now, correct.
And that's in right next to the gigantic mural. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's down in our lower lot, our Main Street lot, and that stage is what houses all the entertainment now.
How about entertainment this year while you're at it?
Yeah, so we've got some of the usuals that are coming back. I mean, Flaxie Morgan is always a great draw. I believe the Sprazzes are playing in one shape or form, whether it's the duo or I think it's the whole
Sprazza
band.
They're great.
There's
are.
really a great lineup of music, and we in the city we love music, and I personally love music, and it's a big part of my life. And I think it's always great. It's always the backdrop. Even at the art walks, we have music playing in the background. Because it's
And when you eventually get to the amphitheater, and perhaps the third stage, you'll be able. I mean, you probably turn away some people that want to play now that you'll be able to invite in to participate.
That actually is a great point. That's probably the hardest choices we make are which bands come in and out. We try to rotate and do a good job with that. The Idle Kings played last year. They were a great band, and I think we'd want to have them back this year, but we try to rotate and move some people in and out so that everybody gets a chance. But when we do that other venue next to the building, what that will allow us to do is to allow us to do the opening ceremony from that venue, so that there's not, the other problem is that we waste a window of time in breakdown and setup.
Sure.
Between the acts.
You
Yeah.
tie everything
Yeah.
up with that breakdown.
So now we can, switch and move back and forth, and if we have a acoustic guitar player like Tori Vachika or Danny Argo and his duo playing, they can play on the upper stage, and we can move back and forth, and we can, I think, strategically schedule acts. And then if we think about the third venue up on the hill, like I said, what I'd like to do is bring in some younger kind of garage bands and some things that, some of the teenagers and younger people in our community would
Are they
be.
separated enough where you'd be able to actually have two things going at one time?
Yes, and the way we've positioned that upper stage is consideration for the way sound reacts in an environment, and much like, jazz festivals and other places like New Orleans, in New York, up
Probably
in
aimed it
Newport.
away from the main venue, which
Correct.
is smart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, we've tried to do that. So, the bottom two next to the stage itself, the bandshell stage, and the stage that will be built next to the facility, they won't be able to go at the same time by virtue of where they are.
Right.
But, the upper stage and the lower stage, when I say upper, the stage that's behind the library, that will be able to function, I think, at the same time. And I think if we book smart, and I say that because when we do the art walk, we have like 3 music venues going, and it's never an issue. Just a block or two of separation works.
And the other thing is, as Rusty kind of pointed out earlier, that the scheduling of this is perfect. And it seems to me you've been extremely careful in doing these things. Your art walk is a prime example. That's the second Tuesday.
Correct.
Now, Scranton already had come up with, first Tuesday.
everything, yeah.
All right, this is just, you're not competing, so you tend to bring the audience from Scranton down here, just as I'm sure the folks from Pittston come up and participate in some of the
On a
events
different day.
here in Scranton.
Oh, we absolutely do. As a matter of fact, Chris DiMatteo and those guys that did La Festa are great friends of ours. When I say we, when the new committee was, sort of taking the helm, and we were wanting to do better things and move in a different direction. I think I dumped my mic.
Yeah, we ought to have the
Yeah,
mic
you
up
did.
there. There we go. It's the enthusiasm does this,
Yes, it does. Yes,
Well,
it
that
does.
and the half Italian part, I'm moving around.
I'm with you.
We're all with you.
So, we've talked to them, and we don't want to compete because I really believe in regionalization. And, the last couple months, as I've assumed office again, I've been meeting with the 3 mayors of Luzerne County, talking about programs, and we don't want to compete. We want to make sure that in Northeast PA, there's an opportunity to do events on every weekend.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why put them all in one weekend? And we have great entities out there like the tourist bureaus from both counties, and now Discover an EPA, which is a great opportunity to really highlight all the things we have here. If you want to do something in Northeast PA, whether it be outside and look at one of our great venues in one of our parks, and I mean our natural parks, to our stadiums, to our arena, to all of the other things that are here, I think there's an opportunity, and we need to get on the boat of celebrating the opportunities we have.
Sure.
So, as a leader, we try to be cognizant of what's going on around us. There'll always be a time, like this past Friday, the St. John's Picnic and the Art Walk were the same night, but I think there was a good back and forth relationship there. But when it comes to the other cities, we're always going to be cognizant of not trying to step. We do that with the St. Patrick's Day Parade,
Yeah,
which is a little
absolutely,
challenging for
right.
us because we take farther away from St. Patrick's Day, which puts us closer to bad weather.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get really lucky, and sometimes we're shoveling snow the night before the parade.
Right.
But we do that with consideration for Wilkes-Barre and Scranton because I think it's important
Sure.
to not talk out of both sides of your mouth.
Well, listen, hats off to you folks for everything you're doing, but
Yeah.
the
Good
big
luck on
thing,
36.
Yeah, right
Thank you.
now it's the Pittston Tomato Festival. I hope you'll enjoy it. Again, there's no admission charge to go and enjoy the acts there. You want to grab a snack, that's up to you. Want to bring one with you? You can do that as well. Mike Lombardo, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it. We'll
Thanks,
see you.
Mike.
Thank you
see
very
you again,
much,
I'm
Paul, for
sure.
having me. Thank you.
And Rusty, thanks.
Good to see you, David.
Good to see you, my friend. We're going to give you 1 week off.
Yes.
So
Multi-guest.
take a
Multi-guest.
rest. Mark
Thank
McGlory,
you, Mark.
thanks for all your work on the other end of that camera. I'm David D. Cosmore for ECTV Live. Till we see you again next week, here's hoping all your news is good.